Welcome to Getting Our Reward Heads Together, the podcast for reward and HR leaders brought to you by Reward Heads. Each episode we explore the ideas, challenges and innovations shaping how organisations design, deliver and talk about reward. We're a boutique consultancy creating bespoke solutions for our clients, but we'll tell you more about that after the episode. For now, let's get started.
Welcome to the latest Reward Heads podcast. I'm Christina Jones, Consulting Manager at Reward Heads.
And I'm Hannah Armstrong, Consulting Manager at Reward Heads. Today we're discussing the importance of pay benchmarking and how to make sure you get it right.
And we'll share some of our experiences along the way, because this is something we help clients with all the time, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And benchmarking is a key component of reward business as usual, and also something that we do for clients all the time. It's so important to get your benchmarking right. It heavily informs pay on an ongoing basis, and pay is, for most people, I would imagine, the headline part of their reward package, meaning that if your pay is informed by faulty benchmarking, you could face some challenges. So today, should we cover off some key benchmarking pitfalls and how you can avoid them?
Yes, because we do get a lot of clients talking to us about the fact that they do want to benchmark, but perhaps they don't know where to start. So with that in mind, why don't we talk about what benchmarking is and why you would want to do it?
Yeah, benchmarking is the process of comparing your organisation's reward offering, so pay, benefits, bonus percentages, etc., to that of other organisations by using survey data. So it allows you to make informed decisions based on data, giving you a starting point for pay or other reward elements that you can then build out from according to your organisation's needs and culture.
Yeah, and it provides some safety, I think, when making pay decisions, because by benchmarking, you can show you've used a logical data-driven process to inform your pay decisions, rather than it being ad hoc, which leaves less room for bias and unfairness. And we also suggest to our clients that they try to benchmark fairly regularly, don't we?
Oh, indeed. Often every year or so. It's a reliable data-led way of keeping up with the times. So employees might go elsewhere if they feel that you aren't paying them well enough. So it's really important to be aware of what other organisations are doing so that you can respond appropriately and ensure that your pay is attractive while, of course, remaining sustainable.
And we've both worked in in-house roles where employees and managers come up with their own benchmarking. I'm saying that in inverted commas. I think independent benchmarking can really help respond to those inevitable, but Glassdoor or Indeed or whatever website they've looked at says that this job is paid X and you only pay me Y.
Oh, absolutely. Because employees find this information online with minimal context for why someone is paid 40,000, for example, while they're not, such as skills, experience, length of service, and what the rest of the reward package is like, and so on. So they see a number and have a perception of unfairness because they don't have the understanding of why that person is paid 40k and they might only be paid 30. But by benchmarking, you can prove that actually no, most organisations in our comparable market doing a role of the same content, which doesn't always mean the same job title, are paying around 30 for that role. So you can go into the conversation well prepared to reassure them and explain your pay and reward practices.
Yeah, and actually using a benchmarking provider means that the work's already been done by them. So it gives you that context. So, for example, they've already checked the job matching, they've removed any skews in the data, and they show you the different market positions and how much data is sitting behind the numbers. And that means that you can take the data and consider it in line with your own pay principles.
Yeah, and actually we're seeing more organisations want transparency as one of their pay principles, which is really difficult to do if you don't have a robust methodology or a clear approach that you can stand by and easily explain.
Oh yes, pay transparency, that's a good one. We definitely need to think about that. But given we've done this with a lot of clients, should we talk about some of the issues that we've run into along the way?
Yeah, there's some really common pitfalls. Number one for me being where there isn't enough data being available. So whether that's due to the filters that are used when benchmarking or perhaps the job in question is a really niche role.
Yeah, absolutely. And we do apply filters when we benchmark because we want to know that we're comparing pay to an appropriate set of organisations, whether that's on industry, location, company size. But of course, the more of these filters that are applied, the smaller the data pool becomes.
Yeah, and for roles in departments that everyone has, like HR or finance, that's not necessarily the end of the world, because the ubiquity of these roles means that you're still likely to have a useful number of organisations in the sample. But if you're looking at more niche roles or functions, it can pose a significant problem, because you end up with a small non-representative sample, or even no data for a given role at all.
Yeah, so the risk is that you end up with only yourself in the sample, slightly
Yeah.
exaggerated. But it has made me think of something else that relates to this, and that's looking only at organisations that are very similar to your own, rather than a wider group of organisations who you might be competing with for talent. And I think that's something we have to explain quite often, that your competitors for customers are not the same as your competitors for talent. And of course, we also see many jobs having transferable skills. So people may join you from organisations that look very different. And equally, you may lose employees to organisations in completely different industries. So it's worth looking at where you've brought people in from and where you lose people to.
Yeah, absolutely. I've had this with many clients who want to drill down to benchmark against their key commercial competitor. But as you've said, Christina, if you know where you lose and attract talent to and from, then you can identify the things that matter most to your organisation and filter your data on those. And actually, if there are multiple filters that interest you, then you could try different combinations of those filters and then compare the results.
Yeah. Okay, so what about where data doesn't exist at all? Because, I mean, it does happen, doesn't it? Perhaps where a job or a function may be particularly specialised, and so you may not find much or any data in your chosen survey, regardless of which filters that you apply to that.
Yeah, that does happen. Yeah, I've found there's a few options to overcome this. So you could start by discussing with a manager who knows the role in question to explore whether there are similar job codes that adequately describe that role, and see whether there's data for them. So, you're really considering what skills that you would be looking for if recruiting for this role, and what roles would that person have done. You could also consider a broader benchmark by going back to the function and trying a more generalist related function code.
Yeah, yeah. And it's worth saying that whilst base pay is predominantly what gets benchmarked, we sometimes do have to look at that in the broader sense and consider how that market value sits within your own total reward offering.
Yeah, we do. Pay is important. It's the headline aspect of the reward package, but it's not the only thing that employees care about. So benefits and bonus must be considered too, if relevant. So actually, it can be another benchmarking pitfall when organisations only think about pay, because they might despair if benchmarking reveals that pay is behind the market, or they could jump for joy if it's ahead of the market. But once you've completed your benchmarking and you've got your results, then you need to take a moment and consider it alongside the other elements of the reward package, because yes, you may be behind on pay, but you might offer a rich benefit package that more than makes up for it. And alternatively, you might be well ahead on pay, but offer a few benefits that, candidates might not find that attractive. So with all of those things, it's, like everything in life, it's about balance.
Yeah, and we do hear quite a lot that employees sometimes aren't even aware of what they have available to them. So it's worth looking at what you're communicating around the rest of your reward package, and whether there's more you could do to help employees or even potential candidates understand the overall value of your reward package, because it doesn't always sit all in base pay.
No, absolutely. And it's crucial to always consider what you already have and how you can make the most of those before making any big decisions.
Yeah. Okay, so the other thing that I come across quite a lot is where somebody disagrees with the benchmarking results. And I think that can lead to mistrust in the process, and potentially that's where we start to see people go off and find their own salary data.
Yeah, of course. And we see this a lot, because it doesn't mean that you shouldn't trust the data. It can happen for a lot of reasons, can't it?
Yeah, for one, there may have been changes to the survey. So there may be more or fewer participants, or the organisations participating may have changed, and that can impact the benchmark up or down. Although we probably see that more for roles without a large volume of data there in the first place.
Yeah, or it could be down to how you've benchmarked the roles. So, go back and check your work, making sure that you've applied the correct data filters and you're looking at the right job level and function code. And you may need to discuss with the manager who knows the role in question, if the codes that are used are the most appropriate. It could also be due to the methodology used. So perhaps when benchmarking was last conducted, the roles were benchmarked with different data filters applied. For example, you could just have been looking at industry, whereas this year you're looking at industry and organisation size. And there might also be a difference if you previously used a different survey. So, for example, if this year you chose to purchase specialised industry-specific data for a certain group of roles.
Yeah, and so of course it makes sense to ideally have as much consistency in approach year on year as is possible. But I guess just going back to that, there's also an element of where that expectation has come from. So going back to our earlier conversation about people conducting their own benchmarking, or perhaps where organisations have traditionally just paid what the last person in that role was paid without realising that the market has changed.
Oh, definitely. And if you find the results differ significantly from your expectations, then yes, I'd suggest going back to check your work and the survey used to see if there is an explanation. But if there is no clear reason for the discrepancy, then it doesn't mean the data is incorrect. As we said, it could well be that your expectations may have been different from reality, or you might have been paying someone very differently compared to the benchmark.
Yeah. Oh, well, I feel like we've shared lots of issues. So maybe we should talk about how we can help, because we do help clients with benchmarking all the time, don't we?
Yeah, we do. We do a lot of benchmarking with clients, and we can help identify the most appropriate source of data. We can help with the methodology and understanding what the data is telling us too.
Yeah, and it's worth saying that benchmarking, albeit, a frequent activity, a very important one, it's actually just one piece of the puzzle.
Oh, yeah, you're absolutely right. There's pieces that could come before and after. So, that might be reviewing your reward strategy, including your pay strategy and policy, and assessing where the offering aligns to your stated goals and overall organisational objectives.
Yes, which is a really important point. So you need to make sure that your leadership team is on board with your approach. Otherwise, you do risk them doing things in their own way, which is just going to make pay decisions more difficult further down the line. So it's not about not taking into account other sources of information. It's about being clear on what you are going to use to base your pay decisions on as an organisation as a whole, rather than individual managers or functions doing their own thing.
Absolutely. And we've really seen the value of facilitating a session with business leaders to help shape that and ensure that everyone's clear and aligned on that start point. And we can also help you put a framework in place to level and benchmark a number of roles, assess how they compare to the market, and then make recommendations for how you can align their pay to your desired principles.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, we would love to support you in this or any other reward quandaries you have. So you can reach us at rewardsolutions@rewardheads.co.uk, or either of us directly at Christina@rewardheads.co.uk.
Or Hannah@rewardheads.co.uk, or you can visit our LinkedIn page.
And we also have coaching modules available if people would like to upskill themselves. The benchmarking overview module is available on our website at www.rewardheads.co.uk.
Absolutely. And also don't forget to subscribe for more conversations on pay, performance, and anything reward related. Thank you for listening.
Thanks for listening to Getting Our Reward Heads Together, brought to you by Reward Heads. We're a boutique reward consultancy working with organisations across the UK and beyond. Our mission is to help HR and reward leaders design fair, engaging and effective reward frameworks and solutions, from pay and benefits to recognition and governance. Every solution we create is bespoke, built around each client's unique goals and challenges. We also offer coaching, resourcing, and trusted forums to keep you connected to the latest reward trends. If we can support your reward journey, we'd love to hear from you.